Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the D by EA podcast. My name is Anand Arora and I am your partner in logic, technology, and enterprise strategy. Today we are addressing the most critical question for any leader, developer, or creator in the current era. The question is, how do you place big bets when the floor is moving beneath your feet every 90 days? What is the logic of placing big bets in this AI era? The noise in the AI landscape is deafening. I mean, we see the rapid fire release of ChatGPT's desktop and remote capabilities, OpenClaw coming in, Claude's sophisticated reasoning models coming up, Gemini's integration into the workplace, and there's a lot of flurry of specialized tools like agentic skills, anti-gravity, Claude skills, and even experimental iterations like nano bananas. On the open source front, even Hugging Face has become a library of Alexandria for models. Like they are hosting everything from massive frontier weights to hyper efficient small language models. You can just go to Hugging Face and try any model, and you'll find some real innovation going on in every new model that is coming up. But if you try to chase every tool, you'll definitely exhaust your capital and your focus. A billionaire mindset does not chase trends, it identifies the structural shift that the trends present. To cut through the hype, we must return to the first principle. So let's talk about principles of the AI era. Whether a model is called Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT or Codex, or whether it has lost like 3 months or 3 years, or whenever the latest update has come out, how is media reacting to it, how many new YouTube videos are coming up, what kind of hype it is creating, there are certain truths that will always remain permanent. You don't need to get hyper about not knowing something that is coming up every 2 to 3 months, because there will always be first principles that will be your defensibility shield against any new innovation that comes up, which will help you prepare to get along with it quite comfortably. The first principle: intelligence is now a commodity, but intent is the new scarcity. So the value is no longer in knowing about how to do something, but it is actually knowing about exactly what needs to be done and why it needs to be done. The second principle: syntax is dying. You don't need to learn a lot of programming languages. You don't need to learn like advanced Python or probably a new JavaScript framework beyond Next.js that has come up, because logic is the new language. Whether you are a coder or a marketer, the specifics in terms of how to of a software interface is becoming more and more irrelevant. What matters now is the logical flow of your system. How do you actually leverage that particular skill, a particular interface, via deep reasoning and questioning, and by applying your logics on that new interface? It could be coding, it could be a new AI based software, it could be a new model that you are trying. You would find answers to everything if you have got the language of logic pretty clear in your head. The third principle is, the blue ocean in AI is not the tool itself, but the orchestration of tools. The winners are those who build systems where the output of one intelligence becomes the high context input for another. And such interconnection is going to make the real and more impactful thing that is coming up in the near future. There will be people who will build the tools, and there will be you, the builder, who will be creating a blue ocean on top of that tools. And that, my friend, is going to be an orchestration method always. Now let's talk about an advanced human framework. So, an advanced human in this era does not become a user of AI. They will become an architect of agents. You must stop looking at these as chat boxes and start looking at them as a digital workforce. To adapt quickly, you really must separate your data from your tools. Your knowledge, your context, and all the business logics that you have, they need to remain tool agnostic, so that when a superior model arrives, you can simply hot swap the brain of your operation without rebuilding the entire architecture and the entire body, because that will always keep on changing, and you definitely have to change whenever a new innovation comes in. Now let us look at some strategic use cases and combinations that we can actually leverage right now. Let us look at how to apply this logic to specific high leverage tasks that can drive enterprise value. So the first one we are going to talk about is all about content and documentation architecture. So when you are dealing with an extensive documentation, or maybe a long context notebooks or complex script, or even if you are an author who is supposed to write a book, do not rely on a single prompt. Always use a hierarchical retrieval approach. For example, you can always use Claude Code's long context window for synthesis, but maybe use Gemini's integration to cross reference with your live Google Drive or workspace data. The real goal is basically to create a living document that keeps on evolving. If you are building a textbook, you can use an agentic flow to research your chapter individually before a master editor agent comes up and compiles this for, a tonal consistency. And then the quality agent comes up and checks for grammatical corrections and other syntax errors that it might contain. The second thing that we are going to talk about is all about a software factory, be it a greenfield project or a brownfield project. I'm referring the greenfield project as something that is created out of zero, which is basically you just have an idea and you have started working on a new software development project. We are calling them greenfield, and the brownfield project are the one which is already been developed, and you are basically creating a new version or you are basically improving the existing product. So for a greenfield project, you should use AI to generate the architecture first, not the code. You need to really define everything in terms of what this product is going to do, what kind of architecture I'm going to have, what kind of design principles I'm going to follow for the code, what kind of boundary conditions I need to have, what kind of tests I need to actually do after the product is released, but not the code right now. Defining all that in the start is more prudent than just going and starting the code. For existing systems, which are like brownfield projects, you may use tools like Cursor, Claude Code, or even specialized agents to first map out the dependencies before you are making any changes. So there needs to be a lot of documentation when you are mapping out the dependencies. Ideally, the current code should provide them, but if not, for the initial setup, you should definitely work on listing out all the dependencies so that you can probably be faster when you're releasing the next version. So, the big bet here is not on the code itself, but on the documentation of the logic so that any future AI can understand the legacy that you're right now building, be it for a greenfield or a brownfield project. The third thing that we are going to talk about is all about agentic productivity and operations. Now, this is where the real devotion lies. What I advocate is you should definitely be building a nerve center or a memory king for your setup. Like, for example, for email and calendars, you should use agents that don't just schedule the meetings but probably also prioritize based on your strategic goals. For marketing and SEO, you can deploy agents that can perform, a continuous loop analysis. Something like this: keep on checking your business website. The agent compares it against competitor and it probably recommends you to automatically adjust your ad spends or social media outreach based on the real-time performance metrics. It may even recommend you the kind of ad that you need to do if you need to really stop the campaign and start a new campaign, or the kind of social media content you need to do, which will provide you more engagement on a daily basis. The third example is about the code reviews. So, for example, you can automate the PR process so that whenever your team is pushing a code, it is basically checked for architectural integrity before a human ever sees it. And that can be done by an agent. And that really would help shipping a good quality code. Now let's go for the fourth task, which is all about, say, media and recall systems. We are going to talk about YouTube and social media here. You can use AI for heavy lifting of your video synthesis and image generation, but definitely keep the creative spark as human. And most important, you need to build a system of memory. You may use vector databases or tools that will allow you for persistent context. Like, for example, you should be able to ask your system what was the core logic of that strategy session that we had 6 months ago on our YouTube channel, and you definitely should be retrieving that instantly via an MCP. To give you a relatable example, I am going to give you a combination of things that I have tried and built for myself. So, I wanted to do following things. Let me just talk about them. The first thing is I wanted to do extensive documentation, new doc creation, long context, big docs, even textbook creations and script creations. Second skill that I wanted was about creating code bases for both greenfield and brownfield. Then I also want to create an agentic system that will maybe help run my email productivity, calendar productivity, even automations for PR code reviews submitted by my team, and able to track daily productivity of my team. I should be able to track SEO analysis for my business websites, the ad performances, marketing analytics, social media analytics, business performance via CRM, outreach, etc. Then there is also a lot of occasional image and video generation that I have to do for my YouTube channel and social media account. And most important, the system should be able to recall even the oldest contacts that have been saved, and it should be able to create systems of memory that can be retrieved in the future. And cherry on the top, if it is able to create Excel, presentation, etc., via some connects or MCP. So, if I want to automate this entire stack today, this might be a logical sequence to follow. The step one would be orchestration, which is basically creation of a central brain. How will I do that? I will probably select a primary reasoning model for high level logic. Currently, Claude 3.7 or even ChatGPT o3 are the leaders for complex reasoning. I might use their desktop versions to allow the AI to see my workflow first. The next step, I am going to build a context layer, which is memory. I'm not going to keep my data inside the chat. I'll always use a tool that will support an MCP or a direct cloud connect. I'll store my business logic, project history, and personal preferences in a structured documentation environment. For example, I think I'll just use a Notion database for this use case. I'll connect my Notion to the model so that they always know who I am and what I am building in long term. So this will be the context layer. The next step would be the execution layer, which is all about agents. For productivity, I'll be using agentic frameworks. The tools that use skills allows the AI to actually take actions like sending an email, updating a spreadsheet, updating my Notion doc, or even triggering a marketing script. I'll deploy these for the low variance tasks first. Like for example, maybe just an SEO analysis or just a PR code reviews coming to my Notion and triggering an email via Gmail to the team members or message to a Slack. And probably I'll then advance towards a daily team productivity tracking. So I'll go step by step on the agenting. I'll not execute everything at one go because there might be chances of failure. I'll first test the system for all the edge cases. The next step is all about the integration layer, which will be an office and production layer. I will try to connect direct connection for Excels and presentation. Could be a Google Sheet and Google presentation, Google slide directly. And instead of building a slide, I'll provide a logic map to an agent, and I'll allow the agent to generate the visual components for the slide and then the content as well. And perhaps share with me the first draft before publishing it and sharing it with the team members in a shared folder, for example. For my YouTube content, I'll probably use an AI to reverse engineer successful scripts in my niche and then apply my decode lens to the output to create the script for the new video that I am building. But then there has to be a 40 to 50% human angle, which will be all about the real thought behind that video. So less automation, but a human assisted workflow that actually becomes more faster via this integration layer. And last step would be a 3-month audit. And this is really important. I think it will take at least 90 days to measure the real output of this automation blueprint. And every 90 days, there should be a system health check. You should check out if there is a new model which is better and cheaper for my SEO agent. Perhaps if it is not via OpenAI, Gemini, or Anthropic, maybe there is something interesting coming up on Hugging Face. Or maybe for a Claude, there a new skill or tool that has been released that renders my current automation obsolete, which is going to happen, I'm telling you, after 3 months. But if your data is separate from this tool, this upgrade will not take weeks, but just minutes. Because we actually laid down one principle, when we were talking about before, that your data always need to be separate from your tools, which was all about the advanced human framework. So the 5 steps that we discussed were the first one, which is central brain or orchestration, basically leveraging one of the models, advanced reasoning models, then going to the memory layer like a Notion, then an execution layer like an agent, which will run the low variance task first, then an integration layer, which will basically connect with my YouTube competitors and direct connection for Excel, and the last step as 3-month audit. Now, this is the logic of big bets. You're not betting on a tool, you're betting on a process. You're betting on your ability to architect a system that can adapt to the best tool available at any given moment. And my bet is this will at least work for an year, if not more. And that, my friend, would be a real success in this AI era where every 3 months a new model or innovation comes and renders the entire process obsolete. So, analyze your current workflow, identify where you are being a user and where you can be an architect. Believe me, the future belongs to those who decode the logic behind the machine. Until next time, keep thinking in the first principles. This is Anand Arora, and you just tuned into my first episode. Hope you learned something out of it. If there is anything you would want to talk about it, go to my YouTube channel, put a comment on it, or reach me out on my Instagram handle, which is decode by Anand. Thank you very much. See you very soon.